feel like I don't know, and I don't know these people.
It felt like a super filler book to me.
Giggling and kicking my feet, and I'm like, that's literally me throughout the book.
One thing about Frieda McFadden, she's always gonna write a dumb character.
Definitely some time later since I started Onyx Storm, but I am now 35% of the way through. I'm actually, this is upside down, I'm actually deciding that I am doing a spoiler filled vlog as well for Onyx Storm, because I'm gonna keep this spoiler free because I am reading a couple other books, a couple other new releases that have come out recently that I want to get to, and this one is just like, I feel like I have so many thoughts, obviously, because it's the third book in a series. I have so many thoughts about it that I can't really talk about here. And I don't want to be like too spoilery here, so I'm going to keep that separate. I talked about this in my other vlog as well, but I was super hesitant going into Onyx Storm just because Iron Flame and Fourth Wing had such different reactions from me. Fourth Wing I loved so much. It was such a fun story, and it was I had a sort of fun and enjoyment with reading it that I haven't had in a long time with a fantasy novel, and just being with the hype was so fun. And then Iron Flame came out like a few months later, and that was on my worst books of the year, so very different reactions from Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I don't know what happened with Iron Flame. It was just like really slow, not much happened. There was a lot of the miscommunication trope that was basically the entire book. I've heard some people say that upon a reread it was a little bit better than the first time, but I don't know if I will ever reread that book, maybe in the future. But I just had to go into Onyx Storm like completely blank. Like, I was thinking I was gonna reread Fourth Wing at least before I got into this, but that just didn't end up happening, and I immediately jumped into Onyx Storm. Yeah, definitely an interesting choice because there's a lot of, you're kind of plopped right into the story basically right after the last one ends, and you're kind of expected to know everything that happened in that book and all the names and the characters. And I've seen so many people talk about this, but there's like so many names being dropped everywhere and characters being talked about that you don't really remember. And I feel like, I don't know if it's because Rebecca like expected us to reread the other books or like remember everything, but I wish there was sort of a recap of what happened a little bit, just a little bit, not like super plot wise, but at least character wise. Just like if you're introducing the name, just like put a comma and then sort of give them a little bit introduction, because otherwise I feel like I don't know, and I don't know these people.
To say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing.
And yeah, so I don't know anyone. I don't know what's going on like I do. It's pretty slow. That's the only thing I know so far, is like it's pretty slow. Also, I'm going to be talking about Onyx Storm in a non-spoiler way, but I will still be spoiling Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. Because this is a third book in a series, I feel like it's really hard to not spoil those when you're talking about this. But basically Xaden being Venom was like a really big reveal in Iron Flame, and it was basically like the cliffhanger that we left off on. And then we start this book and it barely has affected anything, and I don't understand why it doesn't play a bigger role than it is. I don't know, like I guess it's more of a gradual process of a person becoming more Venom-like with more Venom tendencies, but I don't know, it's just nothing is happening, and their relationship is just the same as what it was before that reveal was given to us and before that happened. And I feel like we need to speed up the process along a little bit. Other than that, there's just a lot of plotting going on, not much action, I guess. And that was a little bit what Iron Flame was like too, and that was one of my problems with it, is that's just really slow. There was a lot more like talking about things than actually doing it, and this seems to be sort of following the same structure. There's a little bit more action than Iron Flame, I think because I don't even remember Iron Flame, but I don't know. I'm sure it will ramp up as we go along in the books, as fantasy books do, but so far I just wish that more was going on, and I think that this could have been edited down just a little bit to sort of cut the slow parts from the first half and kind of speed up the process along. But yeah, that is how I'm feeling about Iron Flame. If you want to hear my spoiler filled thoughts, I'll link that vlog down below. I don't know actually which vlog is gonna come first, but if that's out, then I'll link it down below because it has all of my thoughts about everything that's going on, like with spoilers. I am excited about the ending of this book because I've heard some people think that, like, seeing that it's crazy and that it ends in a way that is unexpected, so I am looking forward to that and what's going on there. But other than that, I just hope that this book like speeds up a little bit because right now it's a little bit slow.
Hey, it's definitely been a while because I've already finished Onyx Storm. I don't even remember the last time I updated this, which I feel like I say that every time. But I truly don't know at what point in the book I was, and the reason I wasn't really updating this one super often is because I was also doing a spoiler-filled reading vlog for specifically this book on the side, and this is the third book in a series, so it's like really hard to talk about it without giving a bunch of spoilers. Not just for this book, but especially for like Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So that's why I wasn't really checking in super often for that. But yes, I have finished Onyx Storm and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I would definitely check out my spoiler filled reading vlog if you want to hear all my like in-depth thoughts, because I won't be talking about it here too much, like the spoilery bits. But the reason I ended up giving this 3 stars is because I felt like it felt like a super filler book to me, which was super disappointing because after Iron Flame I was expecting so much from this book, and Iron Flame was also kind of a filler book. Like, I feel like the pace of that was pretty slow and we were learning a lot about the world, and the world was also expanding a bit more. This one, the world is really expanding. We went to a bunch of different more places within the world, and we got to know a little bit more about other places. But I felt like the story structure was pretty like predictable and repetitive after a while, because it kind of kept going through the same cycle of them going to different places and then almost completing like little subplots and side quests. Like, we have the main overall plot of them trying to defeat the Venom, but this one was just filled with a lot of like side quests of them going to different places and different things happening. This book was mostly filled with them trying to gain allies in order to be able to defeat the Venom later on, and also to try to find Andarna's kind, because Andarna is an Irid and they haven't been seen for ages. Violet was trying to find a cure for Xaden, and they were trying to deal with him becoming more Venom. But my biggest gripe with this book is that honestly, like, the Venom aspect of their relationship and him wasn't even present in the book. Like, we come to learn in Iron Flame that he has become Venom. It's a really big cliffhanger because we've kind of seen how the Venom are. So obviously it's terrible that he has become Venom, and I thought it would really impact the story a lot in Onyx Storm, and I was really looking forward to that like sort of playing out, but that did not end up happening at all. And the way the relationship went in this book was pretty much the exact same as how it was in Iron Flame. It was pretty normal for most of the book until the very end, which is when he started to become more Venom-like and obviously fall deeper into those qualities and tendencies. And it sort of was the same exact kind of flow that we went through for the the second book. So yeah, I definitely wanted a lot more from this book. Really hard to talk about this book without like getting into spoilers. Another aspect that I kind of didn't like was that Andarna didn't really do much in this book. She was kind of just there, and I feel like she's such an interesting dragon, and especially because we don't really know anything about her. I guess she's kind of coming into her own too and learning more about herself, but I feel like she could have had like a bigger involvement than she did. A lot of the time they kind of just pushed her off to the side because she's still really young and they didn't want to involve her in like really serious matters because of how young she is. But I don't know, she's just super rare dragon. Like, come on, I want to see some of that action, and I'm sure we will in the last 2 books, but I wish that sort of also came to fruition a little bit in this book as well. Yeah, those are all my fairly spoiler-free-ish thoughts of Onyx Storm. The next book that I'm reading is The Crash by Frieda McFadden, which is her newest book, which came out on January 28th. And this one was one I was anticipating, but not like crazily, because Frieda McFadden is like super prolific and she writes so much and she's constantly coming out with a book. Like literally, when I was looking up stuff for this book, I literally found out that she is publishing another book or like releasing another book this May called The Tenant. And she just writes books so quickly, which sometimes I wonder if like I feel like her quality sort of deteriorating because of that. And apparently she's also a doctor, so she has a full-time job and she's pumping out like 2 to 3 novels a year. And I know thrillers can be like pretty quick to write, I'm sure, but I feel like she should just slow down a little bit more. And that's kind of how I'm feeling so far with this book. By the way, I'm like already 50% of the way through this book. Like I literally sat down and read like the half of it in one go. It is super fast to read, and that's the quality I like about Frieda McFadden's book, is that her books are like super fast to read, entertaining, and they're really just there for my entertainment rather than me looking for like actually like a literary masterpiece. Like after finishing Onyx Storm, I kind of just wanted a quick like fun read as a sort of palate cleanser before I continue on for other books. But The Crash is about this girl named Tegan, and she is pregnant and she's not living a great life. She's a single mom who got pregnant from a one-night stand from this man that she met in a bar. And pretty early on in the book, she like realizes that this baby has been conceived as a consequence of rape. And I would say it's a pretty significant conversation, especially in the beginning of the book. So if you're like sensitive to that, I wouldn't look into it. I would look into trigger warnings for this book. And I was not expecting this book to like head there, but it does talk about a little bit that she doesn't really remember that much from that night because she was at a bar and she'd been drinking, but she later sort of realizes that she had non-consensual sex that night, and that's what resulted in her pregnancy. And then she ends up driving to her brother's place. He's like a ski instructor, and in the way there's like a snowstorm and she has to stop. Her car actually crashes into a tree and she's stranded there until a man comes to shovel her out and then take her to his house. Which, one thing about Frieda McFadden, she's always gonna write a dumb character. I don't know what's with her, but her female characters are always so dumb, and I had read that this one is actually not as dumb as her other characters. But literally when she crashes, this random man comes to her, and yes, he shovels snow off her car, but like he picks her up and takes her to his car and then drives away, and then like goes deep into the woods. And I'm like just so annoyed because like why would you as a pregnant woman be okay with a random like tall ass big ass man grab you, literally pick you up, like scoop you up, put you in his car and drive away deep into the forest? Again, I would actually like start yelling and screaming and clawing his eyes out. Like, what do you mean you're just letting him take you? I don't understand her actions. Anyways, the man takes her to his house. Apparently him and his wife live in this little cabin in the woods, and they get snowed in a lot and there's no cell reception, so they're very isolated. And they offer to take her there and keep her for the night because they're like snowed in and they can't get to a hospital because she does have injuries because she was in a car crash. Anyway, she starts noticing things, and obviously the couple are not as what they seem, and we're sort of getting into that now. One thing that did not shock me at all, and something that I've been sort of like getting to know more as I'm reading more of Frieda McFadden's books, is that obviously everything is not as it seems. So like, for example, a family or a couple that is shown to be very like nice and innocent or wholesome from the outside is gonna definitely have more sinister actions and intentions underneath. So like that aspect is not really surprising me. Like something we've already kind of learned about the couple that she's with did not surprise me at all, and sort of what she was observing was completely different from what was actually going on. So yeah, I'm really hoping that there's like some sort of end twist or reveal that's like super shocking and it's gonna gag me, because that's what I love about Frieda McFadden's books, is that usually she can write a really good twist that I will truly be surprised by. And that's truly why I'm reading these books, is to be like really shocked at the end. So I'm really hoping for that, because most of her books have done that. The last one didn't. The Boyfriend was super disappointing, but this one I'm still holding out for. I just don't know if Frieda McFadden needs to slow down, because she's been popping out books like crazy, and I feel like she needs to slow down a little bit. Otherwise they're gonna all kind of end up feeling the same. But yeah, I've yapped for enough time. That is what I'm feeling right now. And I will try to see if I can record my reaction to the end of this twist / tell you if the ending truly did hit, because I'm really hoping that it does.
Guys, it's definitely been a while. I don't even remember the last time I updated because it's been like probably a week. I think last time I was like halfway through The Crash and I was giving my thoughts on that, and that same night I literally like finished that clip and was like, it was 1:30 in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna read for a little bit and then go to sleep, and then I ended up staying up until like after 3:30 in the morning finishing that book. So yeah, I will say The Crash I ended up giving like 2.75 stars, 2.5 stars. It was really entertaining, and it was super fast paced, and it was really gripping. Like, I haven't stayed up to read a book like that in a really long time. Not even a previous like Frieda McFadden book has had me stay up until like almost 4 in the morning reading it, but this one did that. It was super fast paced and entertaining, but honestly the story was just okay. Like, yes, it was fast paced, but I don't know, just like some of the things that the character did was like, I think I mentioned this before, but just going in a random person's car, I'm like, some of the things are a little bit unrealistic, and then the twist at the end like made absolutely no sense at all. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the ending is like completely out of the blue. It's completely left field, and although you can kind of like figure it out because of the way that Frieda McFadden usually does her twists, it still like doesn't make sense to me at all. And there was nothing like grounding the twists. There was no reasoning that I feel like we were given in any part of the book that would lead us to get to that like conclusion. So yeah, that was frustrating because it just felt like it was kind of there for shock value because it was unexpected, but I just wish that there was a little bit more grounded in the story. The other thing was that this book is actually, I don't even remember if I mentioned this last time or if I was at that point, but this book is split into 2 perspectives. So we're following the main character, and then we're also following the woman whose house that she's at, and I feel like that kind of ruined the story a little bit because when she first gets into the house, she is very apprehensive of the husband that's there, and she has a certain perception of what like their relationship is like, and she's kind of made assumptions about them, and that I feel like was an integral part to the story because it kept up a lot of the suspension and a little bit of the mystery of the family that she was living with. But once we got introduced to the perspective of the wife, that mystery aspect kind of fell all the way through because she was kind of giving up like information about her family and her relationship. Obviously it was completely different from what like our main character was thinking. Our main character was thinking like something weird was going on with the family, and then the wife was like showing a different perspective of their family. I can kind of see the reasoning behind that. It would have been better if the twist was like basically what's actually going on with the family rather than what it was. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but we had a certain twist, and I feel like the twist would have been better if it was like whatever the main character thought this whole time was like completely wrong. I would have been like, that's a better twist than what we actually got. I don't know, I feel like I'm explaining myself really badly, but I feel like a lot of Frieda McFadden's books now are like a little bit too similar for me, especially her newer ones. So I think I'm gonna be taking a break from her newer ones. I don't know, I think she's been pumping out books at such a rapid pace that I feel like there's bound to be some similarities between them and feel kind of a little bit stale, which is kind of how I'm feeling right now. So I think I'm gonna skip out on her next book. I think I'm gonna pick up a book from her, like if it's really hyped, like for example The Housemaid or Never Lie or The Teacher, like books that have been kind of talked about more in the community rather than like every single book that she's gonna come out with. There are some books from her backlist that I still want to read that are interesting, so I might pick those up like sometime, but I feel like I'm gonna take a break from her newer ones because they have been a little bit of a flop for me recently. But yeah, after The Crash, just like a couple days ago, I started reading Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams on my Kindle. I just realized I don't own a single physical copy of any of the books I'm talking about, but honestly, like a lot of my reading isn't being done physically these days. It's through like either Kindle Unlimited or through the library. So that's why I don't have a physical copy of any book, but I have been really enjoying Beg, Borrow, or Steal. So Beg, Borrow, or Steal is the 3rd book in the When in Rome series. Each book sort of follows a different sister. This one follows Emily, who's like the oldest sister, and it follows the story of her and her arch nemesis / the love interest, who is Jackson. Jackson and Emily have had like sort of a rivalry since college. Their history goes way back, and Jackson actually left their little small town of Rome, Kentucky, and she always kind of hated him. She did like secretly was obsessed with him, but like always hated him. He leaves, and then in this book he's coming back. His life is kind of in a disarray. All his plans kind of fell through. He was about to get married, and that wedding got called off, so he's back in town, and him and Emily kind of start their relationship up again. So yeah, very much giving like rivals to lovers, except like it's weird because they don't hate each other. Like they're rivals, they're like don't like each other, they still are obsessed with each other. So I really like that dynamic. Honestly, I'm eating this book up. Like I'm literally like, I'm obsessed with them. Like I love the story. It's so fun. I love their banter. I love their dynamic. And like literally this Goodreads update of me like kind of sums up what I'm feeling, and it says like giggling and kicking my feet, and I'm like, that's literally me throughout the book, because like I don't know, it's just I just love their like dynamic and their relationship so much, and I don't know, the way that's progressing I'm also really loving. So yeah, it's a really fun book. I really hope that I can keep loving it as much as I am, because I haven't felt this way about a romance book in a while, and I'm just so giddy every time I read their relationship. The only slight thing that's like off, not even that off, is that like in the beginning, sort of the things that we're saying to each other, some of the things that we're doing felt a little bit juvenile. There are like enemies / rivals, so like some of the stuff that they say that are supposed to be like insults or stuff just felt a little bit childish. These people I think are supposed to be like like they have careers, they have jobs. I feel like they're at least late 20s, maybe even early 30s, so I feel like a 30-year-old shouldn't be making some of the like, I don't know, childish jobs that they're doing in this book. It's really hard to explain. I don't know, it just felt a little bit like too high schooly college to me when they're older. So they did read a little bit younger when they're in that, but we're sort of past that like enemies part of it, and they're sort of they're growing on each other now. They're sort of relearning their relationship because they've been this rivals for so long, that they've kind of had this one thing for so long where they're just hating on each other all the time, and now they're kind of learning to be nice to each other and like learning more about each other. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really hope that it stays like this. I am about like 57% of the way through, so like most of the way through, and I'm probably gonna update this when I have either finished, unless something like major happens. But yeah, I really hope that I'm continuing to enjoy this as much as I have been, and that the third act conflict doesn't like ruin everything for me. I have finished Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams, and I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I loved it so much more than I honestly thought I would. I loved the dynamic between the characters. I loved the story. I love how much it like dived into who the characters are and their backstories outside of their relationship. I find that I really enjoy that in a romance book, and I almost need that in order to feel connected to the characters. And I just really liked all the conversations that I had like outside of like their romance and their relationship. Like this book is truly for the eldest daughter, for the oldest sister, and yeah, just overall I really loved it. I loved their banter. I love that their relationship was like, since it's built on being rivals, they still had a lot of that fun banter even when they were together and they were like fully into their relationship. I still really like that they still had that like playfulness and banter from like their rival days. Some reasons I guess why I would dock half a star is because, again, like I mentioned last time, that some of the times like their insults or their bantering like in the beginning when they're enemies felt a little bit childish and juvenile, especially because they're a little bit older. They're probably like in their early 30s at this point, so I just felt like it read like a lot younger when they were in that state. And another thing was that I wish we got a tad more of the rivals enemies, I guess, part, because this couple has like so much backstory and history beyond what we see in the book, because they have been rivals since they were in college, and now they're like, again, probably early 30s, so it's been around 10 years since they met and they've had this sort of relationship. So there's a lot that we don't see on page, and pretty much like really early on we kind of do see a little bit of that rivals part, but it turns into them like becoming closer to each other like fairly quickly into the book. And I just wish we got a little bit more of that like haters, enemies, rivals part, whatever you want to call it, before we started jumping into the part where they actually start getting to know each other more and like start falling for each other. So those are the only other reasons that I would like not give this a full 5-star, but I love this book so much. And I just really love this whole world and the small town romances that Sarah Adams is writing, like particularly this world of Rome. I really like how she writes a small town, like everyone has got each other's back, everyone knows about each other, and it's just a small like really tight-knit community, and it's just so much fun to read about. I was like briefly glancing at the acknowledgement or author's note or something, and she mentioned that the next book is going to be the last one, which is kind of sad because of how much I love this world. It's probably going to follow Madison, who's the last sister, and it's probably going to follow her story because she's in New York. So I'm interested to see that. But yeah, this one I was not expecting. It's probably my favorite of the 3 books that I have read. I would rank it as Beg, Borrow, or Steal, then Practice Makes Perfect, and then When in Rome. So each book like kind of keeps getting better. So I'm really excited for the last book to come out. But yeah, those are all the books that I will be reading for this video. I read 3 new releases. I read Onyx Storm, which I ended up giving 3 stars. I also at this point have a whole spoiler-filled reading vlog for this book, so I will link that down below. And then I read The Crash by Frieda McFadden, which I gave like 2.5 stars. I think I'm gonna end up giving Frieda McFadden a break from her newer books at least, because they're all kind of running together now and they all seem pretty similar. And now I read Beg, Borrow, or Steal, which we're ending on such a high note, because 4.5 stars is amazing for me because I haven't given a 5-star in almost a year. So we're on the right track. So I really loved this book. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this. I thought this would be a good way to like get through the new releases, because I have a whole list of my most anticipated releases that a lot of the times I just don't end up getting to, and I might do this like a couple more times in the year just to use it as a way to get to some recently released books that I normally would take more time to get to. So yeah, I'm doing great on my 2025 TBR list, and we're off to a great start to the year. Let me know down below if you read any of these books, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.